Chapter 8. His name was Felix Henderson McMurdo, but they called him the Uncanny Scot. The old grizzled grannies cursed him as he passed them by. Doggies bared their fangs and babbies filled their nappies. Small boys spat down on him from the safety of high windows, and their mothers clenched their buttocks and turned away their glowing cheeks. All that knew McMurdo agreed he'd end his days on a hangman's rope. Felix, who always thought of himself as a bit of a lad and an all-round popular fellow, took it with a smile. The folk in these parts have a funny sense of humour, he told strangers to the parts of which he spoke, and the strangers smiled back at him and shook their heads. But once he was safely out of sight, these same strangers unclenched their buttocks and declared that there goes a wrong 'un if ever there was, who'll end in a gallows dance. Now, on the corner of Agamemnon Street in Sheila-na-Gee there was a tobacconist shop owned by a Scotsman named Patel, and outside that shop was the last outdoor cigarette machine in Scotland. And approaching that very machine, his only pound coin clutched in his fist, was Felix Henderson McMurdo, and just across the street was an auction room. It was one of those memorial halls, or Methodist congregationals, or Wesleyan chapels, or whatever they were. They all look pretty much the same, and you can see them everywhere. They were raised in the middle years of the Victorian era from sturdy stocks and grey slate, with glorious tiled floors and superb vaulted ceilings, and they are a perfect testament to the canny Victorian sense of foresight. Because their interiors perfectly reflect the fine reproduction pine furniture that you find for sale in them today. There was scaffolding up outside this particular one, and a pair of rugged, manly types were bolting a large sign into place. This sign announced that the Victorian Fitted Kitchen Company would soon be opening here for business. But today was auction day, and the hall looked very well inside, stacked up with all that bygone bric-a-brackery. Cornelius and Tuppe entered the hall. "Nice ceiling," said Cornelius. "Nice tiled floor," said Tuppe. "Shall we peruse Mr. Kobold's intended purchase?" "Why don't we do that very thing?" There were ranks of trestle tables, and these were piled high with items which had probably been all very well in their day. There was a good deal of ropey old furniture, some Duff oil paintings, and the inevitable far too good to be true Cadbury shop cabinets. Then there were the armchairs and sofas that travel round the country from auction to auction to auction. Why they do it and for how long they have are anyone's guesses. Tuppe examined a row of spittoons and an elephant's foot commode. Above him Cornelius ran his eye over a box of ancient cane carpet beaters. He consulted the catalogue Mr. Kobold had given him. Lot 42, a collection of early French tennis rackets. That did not board particularly well. "Tell me what I'm looking for again. I've forgotten," said Tuppe. "Ye gods," he added hastily, dropping the lid of the commode. Cornelius read once more from the catalogue. Lot 100, large green canvas portmanteau containing personal effects of the late Victor Zenobia, brush and comb set in calfskin case, various papers, duffel coat, lacking toggles, somewhere on elbows, no reserve. "And all Kobold wants is the papers?" That's what he said. Tuppe rubbed his tiny hands together. "Splendid. Then I bags the portmanteau. It will provide spacious accommodation for the journey home and spare you the expense of my fare." What a well-considered choice. Then I shall go for the brush and comb set in the calfskin case. "No less than you deserve, which leaves us with the matter of the duffel coat." Lacking toggles. Cornelius made a face. "And some wear on the elbows." Tuppe made one to match. "We had best hold the duffel coat in reserve." "Perfect. As I notice that no reserve has been included in the lot, it should fit the bill precisely." Pleased with the celestial harmony thus achieved, Cornelius and Tuppe set out in earnest to locate Lot 100. "Lot 100?" Cornelius asked the tall porter in a brown overall. "Lot 100?" Tuppe asked his shorter counterpart. "Over there." The tall porter pointed. "Over there." The shorter one did likewise. Tuppe and Cornelius followed the pointing fingers and set off in different directions. Felix Henderson McMurdo pushed his only pound coin into the cigarette machine and mused upon the pleasures of the wild woodbine he would shortly enjoy. Felix whistled cigarettes and whisky and Wild Wild Woman, and wondered why the latter never made his acquaintance. And then he wondered why it was he hadn't heard that satisfying little clunk the coin usually made as it dropped inside the machine. On a distant corner, 2 small boys tittered into their unwashed hands, and one slipped a tube of superglue into the back pocket of his ragged pantaloons. "Come on now." Felix gave the machine a playful tap. "Let's be having you." The machine did not reply. The hall was filling up. The auction was set to begin at 1, and it was nearing that time when Cornelius finally met up once more with Tuppe. "Any luck?" The small fellow pulled at the tall boy's trouser leg. "None whatever. I couldn't find it." "Give me a hoist up on your shoulders, then. Maybe it's tucked away on a high shelf somewhere." Cornelius shouldered his companion. "Oh, Corny, put me down and join me there." "What is this?" "Do as I say, quickly." Cornelius lowered Tuppe to the floor and knelt down beside him. "What is it?" "It's the Campbell and his cronies. They're down at the front." "I never saw them come in." "Then let's trust they didn't see you. How come they're here?" "Coincidence?" Cornelius suggested. Felix Henderson McMurdo struck the machine a slightly less playful tap. "Pay up with my woodies," he told it, "and sharp." Mr. Patel issued from his shop. "Away from my machine, accursed one," he told McMurdo. "My coin is stuck." The uncanny Scot smote the machine once more. "I'll fetch my stout stick to ye," warned the tobacconist. A suave-looking gent with a dapper moustache, tweedy cap and sheepskin carcoat climbed the steps of the Gothic pulpit and addressed the congregation of bargain hunters. "Ladies and gentlemen," feedback shrieked about the vaulting, and the congregation cowered beneath it, sheltering their ears. "Yeah, sorry," came a small voice from the rear of the pulpit. "Try again," said the auctioneer. "What's again?" "Ladies and gentlemen." "That's it." "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the weekly auction here at the Artapodis Reformed Church. I see a lot of familiar faces, but as there are a few new ones, I'll just run through the procedures. As there is a good many lots to get through this afternoon, I'll keep it plain and simple." "Good," said a familiar face. "We accept all major credit cards. Personal checks will also be accepted if accompanied by a valid check card. No personal checks above £50, please. Lots secured by deposits must have their balances paid off within 24 hours. Items under £25 must be paid for in cash, and no deposits will be accepted on these. So with that understood, let us proceed to lot number 1. A lady in a straw hat put up her hand. "A little quick off the mark there, madam," smiled the auctioneer. "Please wait until I start the bidding." "I wanted to ask a question," said the lady. "The toilets are by the door, madam." The auctioneer increased the magnitude of his smile. "I don't want a toilet. I want to ask a question." "Go on then." "Can lots over £25 be paid for in cash?" "Of course. Now lot number 1. "But not lots under 25.
"Those 2, madam."
"Well, what if I purchased 2 lots which added up to less than £50? Could I pay for them with a personal cheque, assuming, of course, that I had a valid cheque card?"
"Yes, madam, if the overall figure is more than the £25 minimum. Now, can we please get on?"
"Well, what if I decided to put one of the lots back into the next auction? Could I postpone payment on that until after it was sold?"
"No, certainly not."
The auctioneer was still smiling. "Just. So I'd have to pay for both lots when I bought them, even if I put one straight back into the next auction?"
"Yes."
"Well, what if the lot I put back didn't reach the reserve price I decided to put on it?"
"I suppose you just have to take it home, madam."
The auctioneer's smile was naught but a memory. "I don't want a thing like that in my house," said the lady. "What kind of a person do you take me for?" Outside and across the street a small crowd was gathering.
"All I want is my woodbine," said McMurdo. "Pace me again with that stick of yours, and you're a dead Scotsman, Patel."
"At the end of a rope, that's how I'll end," said an ancient granny.
"Surely I recognise you, madam," said the unsmiling auctioneer. "Weren't you here last week?"
The lady in a straw hat nodded. "I purchased 2 lots. I've put one of them back into the sale this week. I'm going to bid for it myself."
"Why?"
"Well, I paid far too much for it the first time, so I've put a really low reserve on it now. If I can pick it up this week, it should be a real bargain."
"But I thought you said you wouldn't have a thing like that in your house."
"I did, but you can't pass up a bargain, can you? And if I get it really, really cheap, I might put it back into next week's auction."
"Oh, I do hope so," said the auctioneer. "Now, lot number 1. "This is my lord," said the lady, "so no one else bid."
"What's going on here?"
A smart young police officer pushed his way through the crowd.
"Stop hitting that man, Patel. Oh, it's you, is it, McMurdo? What villainy are you up to this time?"
"It's not my fault," wailed Felix, as Mr. Patel struck him a blow to the shin. "My money is stuck in this machine, that's all." "I saw everything," said a young mother with clenched buttocks. "McMurdo started it, the fiend."
"I did not. All I want is some cigarettes."
Mr. Patel took another swing at the uncanny Scot and hit the young police officer.
"This could be a long afternoon," said Tuppe. "Should we pop out for an hour or so and take a late breakfast?"
Cornelius shook his head and vanished under his hair.
"Not likely. I've seen that one before. We slip out for 5 minutes and a lot will be sold before we get back." "You are wise beyond your years."
"Don't mention it."
"Sold to the lady in the straw hat," said the auctioneer. "Lot 97.
"Told you," said Cornelius. "You got to have your wits about you in this game."
"Stand back, the lot of ye."
The young police officer fished out a .22 function Swiss police knife and selected a worthy blade.
"I'll soon deal with this."
He worked the blade into the slot and waggled it about.
"Don't you damage that machine," said Mr. Patel. "Sir, I know what I'm doing. We're trained to deal with situations like this."
He gave the knife a violent twist. The blade snapped off. The police officer gaped at his Swiss police knife. Its functioning power had just been reduced by a factor of 1.
"My best knife!"
The police officer burst into a flood of tears.
"Look what you've done now, McMurdo."
The tobacconist raised his stout stick and the crowd cheered him on.
"Lot 97, Leonardo da Vinci's missing workbook, containing his designs for the perpetual motion helicopter, mathematical principles appertaining to the 5-sided cube, and the formula for the transmutation of base metal into gold. Who'll start me off with a £5?"
"Oh," said a fellow in a green cagoule.
"5 over here,"
said a big fat man in a shameless wig.
"I have 5.
The auctioneer waved his gavel around.
"Do I hear 6? I'd like to hear 6.
"6, said someone.
"I have 6, said the auctioneer.
"No, you don't have 6, said the someone. You wanted to hear 6, and now you've heard it."
"It's you again, isn't it, madam?"
"Only kidding," said the lady in the straw hat.
"This is a very peculiar auction," said Tuppe. "My penknife!"
wailed the officer of the law. Several young and reasonably wild women stepped forward to comfort him. A man in a uniform was a good catch in these parts. A bus drew up at the lights, and the driver, an excitable Puerto Rican, climbed down from his cab to see what all the fuss was about. Up on the scaffolding, the 2 rugged manly types whistled at the womenfolk. The lights changed to green, and the traffic began to back up.
"6,
said the big fat man in the shameless wig.
"But you said 5, said the auctioneer. "I could change my mind if I want to."
"No, that's not what I meant." I'll bid 7, said the cagoule. "Can I bid 7 with a major credit card, by the way? I'm not sure where the lady asked about that."
"Right down here," cried Tuppe, "just for the hell of it."
"Ain't somewhere down the back," said the auctioneer.
"Who said 8?
the fat gentleman asked. "I'll go to 9.
"Who said 9?
Tuppe asked. "Chap in the wig," said Cornelius, giving his chum a leg up. "Shall I bid 10?
"Move your bass,"
shouted a travelling salesman with places to be.
"Your mother!"
cried the Puerto Rican, making a gesture with thumb and front teeth.
"See you, Jimmy!"
The travelling salesman climbed from his car, rolling up his sleeves as he did so.
"It was a birthday present from my old white-haired mother,"
blubbered the officer of the law. "Would you like to come back to my place for some sex?" a young woman asked.
"I have 10.
The auctioneer waved his gavel in the air.
"Who said 10?
Tuppe asked. Chap in the cagoule.
"What's a cagoule?" 11. Do I hear 11? Big fat man with the shameless wig? No. Still with the chap in the lightweight knee-length anorak of French origin, very popular with bearded prannies who wear ethnic shoes, get off on old English folk music, and have girlfriends called Rose who run encounter groups where you can find your true self and be at one with the cosmos. 11. Still with you, sir.
"Well," said the chap in the cagoule, "I don't know if I want it now." "Oh, go on," said Ros, his girlfriend.
12, said a new voice. 12. The auctioneer was all smiles once more. 12 I have.
Who said 12?
Tuppe asked. Who cares? Cornelius replied. 12 I have. All finish at 12 then. 12 million once.
12 million twice. 12 million? Tuppe asked.
There's wee lads robbing your shop, a granny told Mr. Patel. If you give us a lend of your stout stick, I'll deal with McMurdo while you see to them.
Thank you, madam. The tobacconist parted with his stick and fought his way back through the noisy crowd that now spilled onto the street. All I want is my bloody woodbine.
I know you, McMurdo. Child eater, so you are.
The granny swung the stout stick. Beep, beep, meep, 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 bop, meep, beep, went the traffic.
Who are you calling a wetback, Holmes?
The bus driver kicked the travelling salesman where Cornelius had kicked Hamish. A group of shaven-haired yobbos with tattooed cheeks and nationalistic leanings observed this from the upper deck and came swarming down from the bus. The rugged manly types on the scaffolding flung nuts and bolts at them. The comforting young woman led the sniffling police officer back up the stairs to her bedroom. And sold to the Sultan of Brunei for £12 million. Thank you, Your Majesty. Will you take an IOU? The Sultan asked. How much money do you have about your person? Tuppe asked Cornelius. A little over £400 in cash. Lot 98, garish print, The Crying Child, with artext frame and piece of knotted string for hanging purposes to rear. Some small area of fire damage. What do I hear for this little beauty? £1 anywhere.
£1 over here, said the lady in the straw hat. Could we have a window shut, do you think? There's a terrible rumpus going on outside.
Crashing went a brick through the window of a nearby television shop, and things took a new but not entirely unexpected turn for the worse. A circling police traffic helicopter radioed into base. Yours for £1 then, said the auctioneer.
I'd like to put it back into the auction for next week, said the lady. It hasn't reached the reserve price.
Bazaar those CD players, said the bus driver. Load them onto my cab. Uncle Wolf, cried Mr. Patel into his telephone. Big race riot going on here. Get the boys together. Bring many guns. Bring clicky bar. And sold to the young woman who runs the encounter group. Said the chap in the cagoule, making a huffy face. Lot 100, said the auctioneer. We're on, said Tuppe. Lot 100, large green canvas portmanteau containing the personal effects of the late Victor Zenobia. Brush and comb set in calfskin case, various papers, duffel coat lacking toggles, some wear on elbows, no reserve. Can you see it? Tuppe asked. Cornelius craned his neck. It's on a table by the pulpit. The Campbell is leaning on it. All right now, ladies and gentlemen, who's going to start me off on this one? Very chic brush and comb set. Tenner, anyone? 10, said the Campbell, glowering around the place. Cornelius stuck his hand up, caught the eye of the auctioneer and ducked down again. 11, I have at the back there. Who said 11? Growled the Campbell. Do I hear 12? 12? The Campbell curled his lip. Cornelius stuck his hand up again. 13 at the back of the hall. 14. The Campbell raised his voice. Cornelius raised his hand. The sound of an explosion issued from the street, and the distant wail of police sirens. £25, stormed the Campbell, and the devil take the man who offers more. 30, Cornelius had to shout. There was a rat-a-tat of machine gun fire and several windows shattered. The auctioneer took the dive for cover. He took his microphone with him. Do I hear 40? He called. And you'll have to speak up. 40. The Campbell drew out a pistol which had no hint whatsoever of the Airfix factory about it. 50, called Cornelius. Oh! Tuppe spied the lower portions of Angus and Sawney approaching through the forest of legs. They're on to us! Cornelius scooped up his chum and scrambled onto the nearest table, scattering antique French tennis rackets. £100, he shouted. 100! The auctioneer waved his gavel above the pulpit. Do I hear 150? The Campbell rooted in his combat jacket. I don't know if I have that much on me, he said. Could you just hold up the bidding while my boys settle with the opposition? Going once at 100, called the auctioneer, assuming the fetal position. Look out! Tuppe clung to the tall boy's neck. Cornelius leapt nimbly as crocodile teeth fanned the air beneath them. Outside, in the war-torn street, special forces vehicles drew up in an uncompromising line. Steel doors rose at their rear ends and heavily armed men dropped to the ground. Have it, you spalpeen! Angus took another swipe. Cornelius took another leap.
Gas masks on!
Ordered the commander of the special services.
Fire on my command!
The mob, now several hundred strong and going at it hammer and tongs, took time out to boo and jeer at the military presence. Some began to hurl stones. Shaven-headed nationalists rolled a car onto its side and took up positions behind it. "Going twice," said the auctioneer. "Twice at £100.
"105, called the lady in the straw hat. "What the heck, eh? It's only money."
"Fire!" Tear gas canisters broke into the mob. The nationalists replied with Molotov cocktails and foul language. Petrol from the upturned car flooded across the street and took fire beneath the bus, which erupted in a gush of flame. "You did that, you pig!" The bus driver drew out a Saturday night special and shot the travelling salesman. Above the war cries and the screams and the order to fire at will came the thunder of approaching hoofbeats. Down Agamemnon Street, leaping motor cars and fleeing rioters, came a horde of Afghani horsemen, and to the van of them, high upon a purebred white Arab stallion, the wolf of Kabul. Mr. Patel waved from his shop doorway. "Hi, uncle," he called. £200. Cornelius leapt from table to table. Tuppe held high. "Oh, cash." £200, I hear." The auctioneer stuck his head up above the pulpit and the Campbell took a shot at it. "Everybody, down." The Campbell fired into the air, taking a chip out of the magnificent fan vaulting. "On your knees, heads to the floor, or you're dead."
"Control base, choose your target."
The Special Forces commander raised his hand. The wolf of Kabul bore down upon him, the now legendary clicky bar whirling above his turbaned head. "Destroy all the infidels!" cried the wolf of Kabul.
"Bloody hell!"
cried the Special Forces commander.
"Take cover!"
Firing wildly in all directions, his men did just that. A ricocheting bullet chanced to take the front from the cigarette machine, and Felix Henderson McMurdo, who was cowering beneath it, suddenly found Woodbine raining down upon him. "This must be my lucky day," said the uncanny Scot. Special Forces men burst through the front door of the Anabaptist Reformed Church and gaped in horror at the unholy tableau spread out before them. They had stumbled in upon what appeared to be nothing less man than a pagan sacrifice. The ungodly congregation knelt with their faces bowed to the floor. Above them in the pulpit a man, apparently a black magician in a tweed cap, held his hands high in a blasphemous benediction, and before him upon an altar table, flanked by sword-bearers, stood a tall, wild-eyed figure. Surely he wore the mane of a lion upon his head, and clutched in his upraised claws the lifeless body of a small child.
"Holy Stations of the Cross!"
A Special Forces man made the sign over his chest with a gun-free hand.
"Devil worshippers!"
His comrade at arms caught sight of the Campbell, who was struggling with Hamish to shift a green canvas portmanteau. "I know these bastards, Sarge," said he. "They're the wild warriors of West Lothian, cannibals to a man jack of them."
"Jack?"
asked the sergeant.
"Is it Jack London?"